She hung by her arms in the cold chamber, chains cut into her wrists. Her feet barely touched the floor. Her back was covered with old scars, some healed, some still fresh. The air smelled like rust and blood. Her name was LRA, or at least it used to be. The alien baron who owned this place hadn't called her by name in years. He called her beast slave, or sometimes just it. For 15 years. She had known only pain. 5 days a week. She was whipped 2 days. She was left hanging in silence. No sunlight, no freedom, no reason. The chamber was deep underground. No visitors came here, only guards with sharp teeth and cold laughter. Only pain. But on this day, something changed. The chamber door creaked open. Footsteps echoed down the metal stairs. But they were different, lighter. Strange, a new voice spoke. "Why is she chained like this?" the voice asked, a Malay voice. Not like the others. Not cold. Not cruel. A guard grunted. "New worker, huh? That's the Baron's favorite toy. Don't get too close, she's not worth it." The footsteps came closer. She didn't lift her head, she never did anymore, but she could hear him breathe. He was quiet for a long moment, then he said softly, "No one deserves this." That night when the guards left and the lights dimmed, she waited for the usual silence, but something moved near. The bars, a hand. It slid something inside the cell, wrapped in cloth, food, real food, fresh bread, a bottle of water. She didn't touch it. She only stared, then slowly. Her hand reached out and pulled it close. She didn't eat, but she held it to her chest, and for the first time in years, she felt something like hope. The next day, she heard the human's voice again, this time closer. "My name's Jace," he said through the bars. "You probably won't answer. That's okay, I just wanted you to know someone sees you." She didn't look up, but her eyes blinked. For the next few days, Jace came by quiet. Careful, he cleaned tools, moved boxes, delivered supplies, but always found a way to stop near her cell. He brought more food, a small cloth to dry her face, even a warm drink once, though she spilled it when her hand shook too hard. He never asked for thanks. He never looked at her with fear, just with kindness. One day, Jace sat near the bars and spoke in a whisper. "I used to think this place was just another job, good pay, easy work, but I was wrong." She turned her head just a little. Jay smiled softly. "I've seen you, and I'm sorry, I should have spoken sooner." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her voice was gone or forgotten, but her eyes were still alive. Later that night, Jace came. Again, this time he carried something hidden in a cloth. He crouched low and spoke gently. "If they catch me, I'll be whipped too or worse, but I don't care." He lifted the cloth. Inside was a small metal key. He pushed it under a loose stone near her chains. Then he stood. "If you ever decide to leave," he said, "use this." He looked at her once more, then walked away. She stared at the stone all night. She didn't touch it. She didn't move. She just stared because she was afraid. What if this was a trick? What if escape meant worse pain? But what if it meant freedom in the morning? The guards came. They didn't notice the stone. They didn't see the key. They only laughed and raised the whip. But as the first lash hit her back, she didn't cry. She didn't break, because this time she had something hidden, something real. A choice. Jace walked through the lower corridors with heavy boots and a heavier heart. He had seen many cruel things while working across alien planets, slave mines, war zones, even child labor camps. But nothing stuck with him like the woman in chains, the way she didn't scream anymore, the way her eyes never blinked unless pain was too sharp to ignore. It wasn't just wrong, it was inhuman, and it haunted him. He entered the supply room and packed crates like the others. One of the guards, a lizard-faced brute named Varn, leaned against a wall and smirked. "You've been staring at the freak again, human?" he asked. Jace didn't reply. Varn laughed. "Don't waste your time. She's broken, can't even speak. Baron's had her since she was a teen, used to be royal, I heard. Now she's just meat." Jace clenched his fists but said nothing. He knew better than to fight back. Not yet. That evening after the shift ended, Jace returned to the chamber. The guards had left. Only torchlight flickered against the cold stone walls. She was still hanging. Still silent, still breathing. Jace knelt near the bars again. This time he didn't speak right away. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out something small. A blanket, old but clean. He slid it through the bars and placed it beneath her chained feet. "I know it's not much," he whispered, "but the floor's cold." She blinked slowly, then turned her head toward him. At first her voice was dry, almost broken, but he heard it. Why just one word? It nearly crushed him. He stepped closer, but not too close, because you're not an animal. Jay said, because you don't deserve this. Her eyes looked at him like he was a stranger from another universe. No one ever says that, she rasped. I'm not no one, he said softly. My name is Jace. She tried to speak again, but coughed instead. Jace pulled out a small bottle and handed it through the bars. Water. This time she took it. With shaking hands she drank. It was the first time in years someone had given her something without force. The next day the Baron came down. He was tall, wide, and wore robes made of rare silk. His face looked like a cracked mask, too smooth, too pale. His eyes were empty. He walked up to LRA and inspected her like she was a machine. Still breathing, he said. How? Disappointing. Jay stood nearby, silent. The Baron turned. You human? Jace stiffened. Yes, sir, you were a soldier once, weren't you? Jace nodded. Good. Keep your head down, and you'll be paid well. He walked out, robes dragging behind him. Elara didn't move during the whole visit, not until the Baron's footsteps faded. Then she whispered, He killed my sister. Jace looked at her in shock. Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned. She tried to run. They hanged her in front of Majas's jaw tightened. He'll pay for that. No, she said, looking down. They always win. Not this time. Later that night, Jace came back. He lit a small lamp near the bars. Lara was lying on her side now. The chain slightly loosened. Her arms still ached, but she was no longer dangling. He sat down on the cold stone floor. I want to tell you something. He said, a story. She turned to him slowly. When I was 15, Jace began. My village was attacked by raiders. My parents died. My brother too. I survived, but not because I was strong, because someone hid me. A stranger. He paused. I never knew their name, but they saved me now. I think it's time. I repay that. She looked into his eyes. You want to save me, I want to help. You save yourself. He reached under the stone again and tapped it. The key is still there, he whispered. Elara didn't speak, but her eyes dropped to the floor where it was hidden. She was thinking about it when he stood to leave. She whispered, My name is Elra. Jace smiled. Nice to meet you, LRA. Outside the chamber, Varn leaned against the wall. He hadn't made a sound, but he had heard enough. His eyes narrowed. He tapped his calm device. We've got a problem, he whispered. The human is getting close to the girl. La had not walked in 15 years, not truly. Not without chains holding her up. Not without the sound of a whip behind her now. In the still silence of midnight, she stared at Thesmal's stone in the corner of her cell. Beneath it was the key, the one. Jace had left the one she hadn't touched yet. She heard no alarms. No footsteps, only the soft hum of generators far above her. Body trembled as she knelt, slow. Careful, her muscles screamed. Her knees cracked, pain burned through her legs, but she kept going. She lifted the stone there. It was a small, dull key, the first thing in years that belonged to her. Her fingers shook as she picked it up. Then she stood, wobbled, caught herself on the cold metal bars. It felt like falling through time, like waking from a living nightmare. The cell lock clicked quietly. She stepped out for the first time in 15 years. Her bare feet touched the stone floor as a free being. Her legs wobbled. Her balance failed. She fell hard. She gasped, biting her lip to stop from crying. Out, but someone had heard. Jace rushed in through the side hallway, breath short, eyes wide. He dropped beside her. You did it? He whispered, lifting her carefully. I fell. She croaked. He smiled. Doesn't matter, you stepped out, that's what matters. Her eyes welled with tears, not from pain, but from something she had forgotten existed. Pride. Jace helped her to her feet again. He wrapped her in a worker's cloak and guided her through the servant tunnels. Each step was harder than the last, but Laura didn't stop, not this time. A sudden alarm blared, warning unauthorized movement detected. They froze. No. Jace muttered, not. Now voices echoed from the upper halls. The guards had noticed. Barnes' voice rose over the radio. Seal every exit. The slave is loose. Find the human with her. Jace cursed under his breath. He grabbed LRA's hand. Come on, we have to run. I can't. She gasped. I'm too weak. You don't have to be fast. Just don't stop. They ran. Well, he ran. She stumbled. He half carried her through steam vents, old, stairwells, forgotten shafts. Sweat dripped from his brow. Laura's legs threatened to give out again, but the yay fire in her chest, new alive, kept her going. They reached the outer doors of the estate and old maintenance hangar. Rusty, rarely used, but open. Jace yanked the panel loose and typed in stolen codes. "Come on, work," he muttered. The door creaked open just as shouts rang out behind them. "Varn and 4. Guards?" Running toward them with shock batons, Jace turned and pulled out a stun pistol he had hidden in his boot. He fired once, hit one guard square in the chest. Lyra, still weak, saw another guard raise a weapon toward Jace's back. Without thinking, she grabbed a fallen pipe. She swung it with every ounce of rage and fear she had left it cracked against the alien's helmet. He dropped. Instantly, she stood over him, breathing hard. Jace stared at her. "You saved me. I don't want to be saved alone," she said. Together, they ran through the hangar and climbed into a small ground cruiser, parked behind old crates. Jace started the engine. Lara looked back once, just once, as the mansion doors burst open, and the Baron himself stood in the light, tall still, smiling as if to say, "You can run, but you'll never be free." Elray turned forward and for the first time didn't feel afraid. The cruiser sped into the night dirt flying behind them. LRA leaned against Jace, her body aching, but her heart still beating, still alive. "I didn't know how to walk," she whispered. "You did more than walk," he said. "Euros." In the distance, lightning cracked across the alien sky, but neither of them looked back because freedom, real freedom, was finally ahead. Darkness covered the alien plains. Wind rushed across jagged rocks and dry fields. A single old cruiser cut through. The night, its weak engine growling with every bump inside. Lyra sat beside Jace, her body trembling, her eyes locked on the road ahead. Freedom was still fresh on her skin, but danger was chasing fast behind. "They'll be tracking us." Jace set eyes, focused him. "I stole this cruiser from the back hangar, no ID tags. It'll take them time, but not much." LRA looked at the moon above. It was full bright, no clouds to hide them. "They'll find us," she said softly. "Then we stay ahead," he replied, "or we fight." She didn't answer, not yet. Back at the estate, Baron Krell stood in the control room. His cold alien fingers hovered over a glowing map. "She's weak," he said to Varn. "She won't get far. We've already launched the scout drones, my lord." Varn growled, "Shall I release the hunter too?" The Baron's lips curled. "Yes," him. "He's been hungry." Clara and Jace reached the edge of the forest canyon, thick with fog, full of twisted trees. Jace stopped the cruiser beside a cliff wall. "We walk from here," he said. "Footprints won't be easy to follow in the roots." Elara struggled to stand. Her legs still felt like glass. "I can make it," she said. Jace smiled. "I know." They moved under the trees, branches cracking softly beneath their feet. Strange glowing insects buzzed above them. Far in the distance they heard something unnatural, a low growl, then silence. Jace raised his head. "That's not a beast," he whispered. Clara froze. "Then what is it?" "A hunter. The Baron has one half machine built to track and kill." "How do you know that? I've fought them before during the wars. They don't sleep. They don't stop." Laura's heart pounded. "So what do? We go quiet, and we don't leave the path, but..." The path twisted, narrowed, and dropped sharply. The canyon was too steep. Laura lost her footing. She slipped, rolled down through moss and stone. Jay shouted, sliding after her. Here ached her just before she tumbled further. Blood trickled down her arm, but she grabbed his shirt. "I'm not going back," she whispered through clenched teeth. JC's pulled her close. "Then we keep moving together." Behind them a low thud echoed, followed by another and another. Something was landing in the forest. A figure stepped from the shadows, 70 tall, covered in black armor, glowing red eyes, breathing slow and deep. The hunter they ran through vines, over roots, into an old shelter built long ago by smugglers hidden under rocks. Jay sealed the entry with metal scraps inside. The air was thin. The space was small, but it was safe for now. Lyra collapsed to the floor. Jace knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded. I don't want to go back in chains." "You won't." She looked into his eyes. "Why do you care so much?" "Because when I see you, I see what they tried to do to me as a child. I escaped, but others didn't. And now it's your turn to live." They sat in silence. For a moment outside, the hunter's heavy steps grew louder, closer. It scanned the land. Its red eyes blinked slowly, then it turned its head toward the rocks right where they were. Hiding, Jace grabbed his stun pistol, only one shot left. Laura looked at the tiny blade she carried, a piece of metal sharp enough to cut ropes, maybe not armor. She stood slowly. "What are you doing?" Jace whispered. "If it finds us, you distract it," she said. "I'll go for the joint in its neck. You can barely walk. I can fight." She said firmly. Jace stared at her for a long moment, then handed her the stun pistol. "You'll have a better shot than me." The hunter stopped just outside the rock wall. It tilted its head, then slowly turned and walked the other way. Laura and Jace both exhaled. Breathless, "He'll be back," Jace said. "We have to move again." LRA looked out through the cracks in the rocks, her voice calm. "Then let's not run anymore. Let's lead him where we want." The sun rose slowly over the cliffs. Golden light poured across the valley, warming the trees, touching the leaves, and shining down on something that hadn't felt sunlight in a very long time. Laura stepped out of the cave here. He squinted, then widened. She raised her hand to block the light, but she didn't turn away for the first time. In 15 years, the sun touched her face. Not behind a cage, not through cracks in stone. Real sky, real warmth, real freedom. Jace stood beside her, watching. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. "Here, you said everything." Tears rolled down her cheeks, not from pain, but from something she hadn't felt in years, a kind of peace. He whispered, "You made it." She nodded. Not alone, they walked slowly into the clearing. Jace had found an old outpost in the maps, abandoned by smugglers decades ago. A place no one remembered, the perfect place to hide for. Now the outpost was half buried, overgrown with vines and moss, but still solid. Jace opened the rusted door. Lara stepped inside and paused. "It smells like dust. That's better than blood," he said, with Asmal's smile. She looked around. "No chains," she whispered. "No Baron, no whips, no orders." She turned to him. "Just quiet." He nodded. "And time." Later, Jacis made a small meal using supplies from his bag. Nothing fancy, just warm broth and dry bread. He placed the bowl in front of her. She stared at it, then at him. "You won't feed me?" He blinked. "What?" She lowered her eyes. I don't know how to eat unless someone says so." His face fell. He sat beside her gently and said, "You can eat whenever you want. You can speak, sleep. Move only if you want." LRA looked at the spoon, then slowly picked it up with shaking hands. She took one bite, then another, and then a deep breath. "I forgot food could have taste." For the next few days, they stayed hidden in the outpost. Jay set up small motion alarms and covered their tracks. He fixed the roof with scrap metal, and every morning Laura stepped outside just for a few minutes to feel the sun. Her legs got stronger, her eyes less hollow, but inside she still carried the weight. One evening, Laura found an old mirror in the supply room. She stared at her reflection. The face was thin, scarred hair, uneven skin, pale. "Who is this?" she whispered. Jace came in quietly and stood behind her. "You?" He said, "No, not anymore." "Then who do you want to be?" She looked at herself long and hard. "I want to be someone who doesn't flinch at every noise." "You will be, I want to sleep without waking up screaming. You will, I want to stop feeling like a thing he gently placed." His hand on her shoulder. "You already have that night." She had a dream, not of pain, not of chains, but of wind running laughter. A life she woke up with tears on her cheeks and a smile. But peace doesn't last long when evil remembers your name. Far from the outpost, the Baron stood before a group of elite trackers. Varn was gone, punished for failure. Now the Baron wanted results. Her scent ends near the canyon. The lead tracker said, "Then burn the canyon." The Baron snapped, "Smoke them out. Bring me her body and the human's head back at the outpost." Jay sat outside fixing a broken drone. LRA came to sit beside him with a piece of fruit. She offered half to him. He raised an eyebrow. "That's for me." She smiled. "You didn't give it to me. First I chose to share." He took it and nodded. "That means you're healing, no?" She said gently, "That means I'm finally free." But just then, boom, a distant blast shook. The ground smoke rose on the horizon. Jay stood up, face hard. They found the trailra. Stood too. No longer shaking, no longer silent. "Then we make a new one." Smoke rose in the sky like a black warning. Jace watched the horizon through broken binoculars. That explosion wasn't random. He muttered, "They're testing the ground." Closing in, Elira stood behind him. Eyes focused, jaw tight. She was no longer the trembling girl in chains. She had scars, yes. But now she carried herself like someone who had survived hell and wasn't going back. Deep inside his fortress, Baron Krell. Paste burning the forest didn't work, he growled. She's still alive with the human. One of his aides trembled. My lord, perhaps it is time to cease the project. The Baron turned slowly, a wicked smile spread across his face. Yes, he said, release Oan Oin was not born. He was built part creature, part machine, designed to track fear, to smell it, to taste it in the air. He didn't follow footprints, he followed pain, and Elra had enough pain in her soul to light a galaxy at all the outposts. Elra checked the food. Pax, we have 2 days worth left, she said, maybe less. Jace nodded. Then we moved tonight. He didn't want to tell her he saw drones an hour ago. They weren't searching blindly anymore. They were following that night under starlight. They packed light and left the shelter. They moved through tall grass and dry hills for a moment. The air was calm, almost peaceful. Then a sudden gust of wind, a foul smell like rotting metal. Lara froze. I know that smell, Ker whispered. I've smelled it before. Jace raised his stun gun. What is it? Her face went pale. They've sent the hunter. They didn't run. They couldn't. The ground around them was open, no cover, so they moved low, quiet, fast, but the hunter was faster behind. Then something dropped from the sky. Heavy, loud. Oberyn rose from a crater of dust, red eyes glowing like fire. He turned his head once, then sprinted forward, silent, deadly. Jace spun and fired the shot, hit Oberyn's chest, but bounced off with sparks. Go! Jace yelled. Elra ran. Her legs didn't shake now. They moved. They found an old cave in the rocks, half collapsed. Jace and Elra ducked inside just as Oren reached the cliff's edge. He stood above them. Scanning, his voice was metallic. Slow. Elra of House Urin, slave number 021, step out and be executed with honor. Elra clenched her fists. Her voice rang from the cave. I'm not a number anymore. Oren took a step forward. Jace grabbed a sharp rod from the cave floor. I'll distract him, he said. You find a way out. No, she said, we do. This together. They ran deeper into the cave, twisting tunnels and sharp corners. The hunter followed his body, too large, scraping stone as he moved. But that gave them time, just enough. They found an old mining shaft, unstable, but it dropped into darkness. Jace looked down. It's a straight drop, Lara said. Then we fall to live or we stay to die. They jumped. Oberyn dove after them. They hit water cold deep. They surfaced coughing. Jace pulled Lra to a hidden ledge. Oberyn splashed down, searching. His scanners beeped. Then he stopped. The water was full of minerals that blocked his senses, growled, and climbed back out. Lara and Jace sat dripping and breathless in the dark. That was too close, he whispered. Lara nodded, but her eyes were fierce. He knows my name, she said. He knows your past, Jace replied. Not who you are now. She looked down, then back up. I want to show him. The next morning they found an exit from the cave. Sunlight hit her face once more, but this time she didn't just smile. She spoke. I'm going to stop running. Jace turned. You mean I want to face him? I want to end this. He stepped closer. Then we fight together, far above. Owen stood on a cliff. He had lost them for now, but deep inside something strange happened. A glitch. He replayed her voice over and over. I'm not a number anymore. Oberyn's machine mind didn't understand, but a small part of him, some forgotten spark of organic life, remembered what it was like to be free. Lara stood at the edge of the canyon. Wind blew through her tangled hair. Her body still ached. Her arms still bore scars, but her eyes no longer looked down. They stared forward, toward the enemy, toward the man who had caged her life for 15 years, toward the Baron. Jay stood beside her, holding his weapon. You don't have to do this, he said. I do. She whispered, not for revenge, for peace. She tightened the straps of her worn cloak. Her fingers brushed the key still hanging around her neck, the one Jace had given her in that dark cell, a symbol of choice, of freedom down in the canyon. Baron Krell waited with a squad of armored guards, and Oren the hunter, the Baron's pale face twisted with hate. She dares come back. He spat. She thinks she's more than a slave. She's bringing the human, a guard warned. There, together, the Baron smiled coldly. Good, I'll break them both then. Hang her body outside my gate. Lyra and Jace moved quickly through the rocks, using the cliffs for cover. Jace had rigged 3 explosives from the old mining site. He placed them along. Then arrow paths. This won't stop Oberyn for long, he said. LRA looked toward the enemy camp. I'll stop him. Jace grabbed her hand. Don't die. She gave a soft smile. Not a day they made their move, the canyon echoed with the sound of boots and shouts. Lorraine sprinted across the open field, drawing their attention. The Baron's guards chased her. Jace pressed the first trigger. Boom rocks collapsed, blocking half the squad. Owen didn't stop. He lipped the rubble like it was nothing. Returned and faced the giant. Machine beast, he slowed as he approached her. Lorraine, you cannot win, she stepped forward. You were once alive, they turned you into. This Oberon paused, a spark flickered in his red eyes. You remember? Yes, she said softly. You weren't always their weapon, just like I wasn't always their slave. Oberon's metal fists clenched behind him. The Baron appeared furious. Kill her, he shouted, now. Oberon didn't move. Obey me. The Baron roared. I'm tired of obeying. Oren said. He turned, and for the first time in years he attacked the Baron. The battlefield exploded into chaos. Oberon struck down 2 guards. In a single blow, Jace ran in, covering LRA. The Baron screamed in rage and pulled a high-energy rifle. He aimed at LRA and fired. She felt the heat shoot past her face. Jace jumped between them. The blast hit his side. He groaned but stayed on his feet. You all right? She cried. Not dead yet. He grinned. Lara charged at the Baron, sliding low beneath his next shot. She rolled, grabbed a fallen blade, and drove it into his side. The Baron staggered back. She looked him in the eyes. I am not your property. Then she pressed the explosive charge into his belt and ran. Boom dust filled the canyon. When it cleared, the Baron was gone, nothing left but smoke and silence. Laura dropped to her knees. Jace limped over and fell beside her. Oberon stood above them, silent. You're free now. LRA Sidoran looked to the sky. I don't know what to do, then come with us. Jace said, we'll figure it out together. Weeks passed. They returned to the outpost. This time not to hide, but to build. Jace repaired what was broken. Oberon guarded the land and LRA. She planted flowers. She cooked, she laughed, she even sang once. And every morning when the sun rose, she stepped outside and lifted her face to the light. No chains, no fear, only freedom forever.